Hey, this is Tom Speciale. I don't know how long this video is going to be. I haven't really decided how long I want to take. It's Memorial Day, and on Memorial Day, on days like this, and Veterans Day, 4th of July, I really usually take time to think about the day. I mean, I know a lot of people, it's just a barbecue or it's a day off of work. But as somebody who served in uniform and somebody who's still serving in uniform, it's always really a very poignant day for me, because I know so many people who, my whole family, going back, all of my grandparents served, my brother, my father, my own children are serving, so many friends and so many loved ones serving, have served, um, and so there's always just a lot to think about on days like this for me. And right now, as you know, I'm running for U.S. Senate against one of the most powerful Democrats in American history, probably one of the most leftist, liberal Democrats that we've ever had in the Senate. And so there's just a lot of things going on right now that I'm thinking about. And of course, I've been thinking about this for 4 years as I was getting ready to run. Unlike the other candidates in this primary race, I didn't just wake up one day and decide, hey, maybe I should be a politician. In fact, I hate the idea of being a politician. But after, the events in 2016, most importantly, the Pulse nightclub shooting, when the Democrats just lost their minds, I decided to get involved and take action. Um, June 23rd is going to come down to a choice. That's really what it's going to be. And it's going to be about who you think can best take on the Democrat Mark Warner. It's not personal between me or the other primary candidates. I've never looked at it that way. Um, it's about who can win. Because I know that in Virginia we're sick of losing. Because people, in fact, I just talked to a very well placed person who said that she was even part of the establishment. And she said, yeah, Virginia's blue. Well, then why bother? Why even be in the fight? Why even be in the fight? Why not just move? And so I got kind of angry about that, and I really started thinking about my campaign from the very beginning till now. When I started thinking about it in 2016 to now, and one of the things that I thought about was, I was going to write 2 books. One book was my autobiography, which is out there, Faith, Family, and Fortitude. I give the proceeds to charity. You can find it on Amazon. Unofficially, I call it my Book of Scars and Skeletons. But this is Newcastle, by the way. That's my go-to. The other book I was going to write, and I did a bunch of research on it. I have all my notes, but I never actually got a chance to publish it. But it was going to be what I called the top 10 issues facing America. And 4 of those issues are my platform, which are, immigration in sanctuary cities, the mental health, the gun violence argument that the Democrats use, the American dream education, and finally criminal justice reform. Those 4 big priority problems are my platform. The other candidates are like, we need small government. We need a strong national defense. Well, I'm going to do all those things anyway. Those are foregone conclusions. You're not even a conservative if you don't believe in those things. But I wanted to get bigger than that. I wanted something bigger than that. Defending the Second Amendment is something I've just done my whole life. I didn't just wake up and it wasn't politically convenient for me to defend the Second Amendment, as is the case with, at least one of the other primary candidates. Those things are foregone conclusions as a conservative for me. But what I wanted to talk about right now was sort of how I was going to start that second book, and I was going to start that second book with 3 chapters, and that was going to be who were we, who are we, and who are we becoming as a country. Who were we? And again, these are just my thoughts from doing all the research. It's not all put together, but just my thoughts right off the top of my head. Who were we? We were pioneers, frontiersmen, rugged. Rugged individualism is built into sort of the DNA of being an American, is being independent and being self-sufficient and being resilient and self-reliant. And we were also builders and inventors and engineers, and not afraid of hard work. The working class was born in America during the industrial age. I mean, that's part of, again, also part of our DNA. And then on top of that, we were dreamers too. And that, we were dreamers in the sense that we dreamed about a better civilization, a better way to govern ourselves, led by the people, as opposed to the government being in charge. We're in charge. It's not the government in charge. These governors are not in charge. We are in charge. Well, and as another part of who were we, what did we do with all that innovation, that inventiveness, that frontier spirit, that patriotism? What did we do with that? What did we do at that time? Who were we? We defeated the British. That's the birth of liberty in the world, is our throwing off the yoke of a tyrant king who just treated us as peasants and subjects, instead of recognizing our power. And so we defeated the British, the greatest world power that had ever existed up to that time. And then we defeated slavery, which was just a horrible crime against humanity that had gone on for centuries. And we fought a bloody civil war to defeat slavery as well. And at the same time, keep our country together so that we could go forward and be the greatest country that the world has ever known. We fought to keep the country together against the evil of that tyrannical mindset that had resulted in slavery. And then we went on, we defeated, we were victorious in World War I, we defeated the Nazis and the Japanese in World War II. We defeated fascists, we defeated communists, we've gone on to defeat the Taliban, we've fought ISIS. In the world, we are a lamp of liberty and freedom in the world today. Because of those sacrifices, because of our willingness to sacrifice for others, is why we are the America that we are today. But I would argue that today only about maybe a tiny bit over half of us actually adhere to those principles anymore. The other half, maybe not even half, because there are those among us, even within what we would call the Republican camp, who are not actually Republicans. They're just Republicans in name only, but they believe in social programs. They believe in government dependency. They believe in But so that was who we were. Now let's talk about who we are. Like I said, probably half of us or more are perfectly fine with being dependent on the government for our security. We're perfectly half of America is perfectly happy with a government paycheck every month. Half of us are perfectly fine with a dumbed-down education system where everyone passes with straight A's regardless of how much effort or work they put into it, because they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Half of us, I believe, are psychologically crippled. I do. I believe that. I believe that they are psychologically crippled. They have given into the belief that only the government can save them, only the government can provide for them, only the government can allow them to have opportunity. They're dependent on the government for everything. And I find myself in the camp of people that disagrees with that. That everything the government does, the people could do better if we would just get the government out of the way. Except possibly for the national defense, which, unfortunately requires, a strong organizational structure. It's not necessarily efficient, but at least it is focused on defense of our country and sort of to husband our resources in a singular means to defend our country. That's the only thing that the federal government was supposed to ever do, was to make sure that we were able to defend ourselves from any external aggression. But right now, I would argue we have a domestic enemy. People have heard me say it. These people have revealed themselves to be our enemy. They are the enemy of liberty. They are perfectly fine with ordering people to wear masks, or ordering people to stay home, or ordering people not to play football on the beach. And they're fine with that. They are completely disassociated from the origin of our country, and ultimately, I believe, because of the socialism and the liberalism in our education system, they've been educated away from the facts of who we were. I was at a reopen rally for Prince William County just a day or so ago, and there were literally children there holding up signs about tyrants in our government. There were children there who are learning painful truths that our political leadership are lording power over us like we're peasants. I never thought in all of my days that we would come to this in our country. I never, ever would have ever envisioned any political leader, regardless of party, ever ordering us to stay home and fining people and locking businesses. And literally there was a thing on the news yesterday where some governor has gone in and changed the locks on privately owned businesses. How can any American citizen think that that's okay? How can any American citizen think that it is okay for a governor to just simply change the locks on personal property and on the business that a person is using to feed his family? How can any American believe that that is okay? America is still the greatest country in the world, but we need to be woken up. This is really dangerous, folks. This is really dangerous. And I love these other primary candidates, okay, that are out there trying to be all polite about it. But the time for being polite is quickly going away. This is like a new form of tyranny. This is our own government waging psychological warfare on us. That's what this is. This is psychological terrorism. And we can no longer be tolerant. We have to stand up to these liberals that are willing to give away all of their freedom and all of our freedom because of a scare tactic. And worse, we've got the socialists that basically want to remake our economy into, what Europe has. And then worst of all are the rhinos. The Republicans in name only. They're people who think that this is okay. They're not speaking out against this. And it's not just that. It's the ones that want to cut defense spending. The ones that think, you know who you are. They want to cut defense spending. They think Sharia law and the Bible are the same thing. They think it's okay to lie for political power. They think it's okay to spy on their friends and neighbors and to record their conversations for political gain or for political advantage. I cannot imagine ever sending one of my campaign staff into another campaign to spy on them. I cannot fathom that. That's what the Democrats did to our president, his campaign team, and the FBI did to Michael Flynn. That is absolutely unacceptable. So, who are we becoming as a country? Who are we becoming? Look. Republicans, let me start this way. And many people have already heard me say this. When Donald Trump said he was being spied on in 2016, because of what I do in the intelligence community and what I've done in the intelligence community for 10 years, I knew immediately that he was being spied upon, and I knew why. I knew even then, in 2016, it was a counterintelligence investigation because he's an American citizen, businessman, with global business relationships in foreign countries like Russia, Middle East, everywhere. And he's running for U.S. president. And there's probably all kinds of dirt and fake dirt out there on him. So I knew that was true from the beginning. But I also know the law. And the law says that if you can't find something wrong, illegal, within 90 days, the investigation has to stop. The counterintelligence investigation has to stop. And people need to understand that a criminal investigation and a counterintelligence investigation are two totally separate things. Even though the FBI likes to think of them as the same. They're not. So Donald Trump was being spied upon because he had business connections all over the world, and so did his campaign team. But when Carter Page was interviewed, Carter Page told the FBI that he was working for our government against the Russians. And instead of the FBI calling everything off like they should have, they unilaterally decided to continue the investigation, mostly because the political appointees in the FBI and the political appointees in the DOJ probably convinced President Obama no one would ever find out that we've broken the law and violated their civil liberties because Donald Trump isn't going to win. But then he did. And all of this has come out. So I say all this because if we don't prosecute these people to the maximum extent and put them in prison, we're no better than the Democrats. I was told recently when I talked about one of my opponents in the primary sending someone to spy on a meeting, I was told, well, that happens in politics, even though it's a Class 6 felony. That's what I was told. That, yeah, political campaigns spy on each other all the time. Not this campaign. And if I get to the U.S. Senate, if you put me in the U.S. Senate, I will make sure that never happens again to anybody in America ever. We need to prosecute it. We need to go after the people who tried to coup our president. And I believe I'm the guy that can do that. Remember I said I didn't know how long this was going to be, so I hope you haven't all gone to sleep on me. The last thing I wanted to talk about was, well, really two things. You know, I mentioned the whole psychological terrorism. I was in a conversation with somebody a couple days ago, and something occurred to me. That free speech allows us to... We were talking about the whole concept of hate speech and how hate speech is being labeled by Democrats as domestic terrorism. And that's because they want to take away people's guns with people who have ideas that disagree with them. So they want to label anybody who disagrees with them as a domestic terrorist, and then from there they can take away your guns because you pose a threat to society, supposedly. That's what they're going to try and do. But, you know, one of the things that came up was, you know, it's illegal to yell fire in a crowded room, right, or in a crowded theater, right? It's against the law to endanger people by yelling fire in a crowded room, a crowded theater. Well, what occurred to me is, isn't that the same thing that the Democrats do when they yell gun violence, gun violence, gun violence when somebody goes into a nightclub in Florida and shoots it up? Aren't they essentially lying about the danger and spreading fear throughout the American population as though they were yelling fire in a theater when in fact there is no fire? Isn't that the same thing? Is it the same thing to be yelling COVID-19, 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 everybody's going to die, when none of the science actually backs that up, and it's totally like not as infectious as they said, and it's not as deadly as they said, and we haven't lost 2 million people? Isn't that the same thing? Isn't that the same thing as yelling fire in a crowded theater? You know, it's not just fear-mongering, it's actually psychological terrorism. It is actually terrorizing the American people. And it's terrorism because you're trying to achieve a political objective. So you're using psychological warfare against the American people to achieve a political objective. Just like it's illegal to yell fire in a crowded room or a crowded theater, I think it should be illegal to yell gun violence when there is no such thing. There's a mental health crisis, but there isn't a gun violence problem. And at the same time, to yell COVID-19 when we know now that it doesn't have a very high fatality rate and it's not as contagious as they thought. So if we don't stand up to this, and we don't resist this, and we don't call it what it is, we might as well not vote at all. So, fire in a crowded theater. The very last thing I want to say is this today. You know, in this primary, I love these other two candidates. Elisa Baldwin in particular, I think, and many people have heard me say it, I think she's one of the most courageous women I've ever met in my life. She has to know that she has very little chance of winning. I'm sorry, Alicia, but, and I do, I really, really like you, and I admire you, and I respect you. And in particular, I respect your career path as a teacher, because I think you know how I feel about that. And, you know, crafting the minds of future generations. I'm very disappointed in my only real opponent in this race, Daniel Gage. I'm very disappointed in him as a military officer. Because I think he has fallen under the influence of the establishment. And as a result of that, he has made decisions that I think are detrimental and antithetical to our conservative values. You know, Daniel likes to talk about, you know, there's this group and this group and this group, and he wants to make them into a fist. Okay, there's really only two tribes in Virginia. There's only two tribes. There's the establishment, machine, Republican tribe. These are the big establishment donors, the big establishment politicians, the big establishment machine that profiteers off of campaigns. That's what they do. They make money off of political campaigns. That's why they will say you're not a legitimate candidate unless you have millions and millions and millions of dollars, because they make money off of those millions and millions and millions of dollars. And then they're going to get in office and they're not going to do anything they said they were going to do. The other tribe is the Trump tribe. And thank God for Trump. Everybody out there should know by now I'm 110% behind Trump. I think he threw everybody for a loop when he won. I do think he's God's man. And the Trump tribe are the people who are fed up with organizations like the Republican Party of Virginia that failed to run candidates in 40-some races in Virginia. And what's funny is the RPV, and this is what is important for my audience to understand, the RPV takes no responsibility for that. They blame you. They blame you. Call them and ask them. Call any of these guys that are connected to the RPV and ask them whose fault it is, and they'll tell you it's your fault. It's your fault because you're too busy raising your children, you're too busy trying to build your business, you're too busy running your farm, you're too busy fighting for liberty, you're too busy, and it's your fault that you didn't run. That's what they'll tell you. I literally heard it today. They blame you. They don't take any responsibility. Now the truth is, to a great extent, it's Trump's fault because he started this new tribe. And everybody went to the Trump side. And the big Republican donors, like people that supported Ed Gillespie, okay, and George Bush, who I really, really admire George Bush. He didn't run as a president to be a wartime president. I think he did a damn fine job. But he's part of the establishment. Don't misunderstand. But the big Republican donors turned their backs on the RPV because the RPV was kind of saddled with Trump. There wasn't going to be anybody else for them to support. So they didn't give any money to the RPV because the RPV wouldn't be able to help anybody, and there were all these Trump candidates like Corey Stewart out there, okay? And so because of that, they just turned their back on the RPV. And when they turned their back on the RPV had no money to help candidates, and even the ones they did want to help, they couldn't afford to. So what that really means is that the establishment donors turned their back on the Trump tribe. People that had all the money, people that had all the political know-how, the ones that knew how to run things and organize things. When all the Trump tribe came up, well, they just think you guys are all a bunch of hillbillies. You guys aren't politically savvy. You guys don't know how the machine works. But what they forget is you're the people who pay that pay your taxes. You're the people who work 60 hours a week. Like me. And so they abandoned 40 districts or 40 races in Virginia in 2019, and they blame you for it. And then they prioritized their money with the most establishment candidates in Virginia to try and get those seats for an establishment Republican. And guess what? All those establishment Republicans lost. All of them. So there's only two tribes in Virginia. There's the establishment tribe, and there's the Trump tribe. When I launched my campaign technically in September of last year when I spoke at the State Central Committee, I said, I want to be a unifying candidate. I know that what I'm saying here doesn't sound very unifying. But if I have to have a choice, if I have to side with one of these tribes, I'm going to choose the Trump tribe every day. Because the Trump tribe are the people who made Donald Trump our president. It wasn't the establishment. Remember the Never Trumpers? The establishment is the Never Trumpers. Just go talk to them, ask them. They'll tell you. You can tell by how much they've donated to grassroots candidates like me, or whether or not they opposed Corey Stewart. Look, folks, I'm just a regular guy. You know, I said at a speech the other day, I'm a greasy wrench, gunpowder, and dirty boots guy. That's what I am. You know, I have served in the intelligence community for 10 years. I've written all the war plans. You know, I've been in the military for 28 years. But it's not about me. It's not about me. It's about you. It's about your children. It's about your grandchildren. And, you know, I'm hoping that that message resonates across Virginia and that people will share and spread my message, because I want to go to Washington, D.C. with Virginia values, not get saddled with Mark Warner again for another 6 years, because nobody else in this race can beat Mark Warner. I'm telling you right now, they cannot beat him. And you're backing an establishment horse if you back any other candidate, except for Lisa Baldwin. She's definitely not an establishment candidate. So everybody knows who I'm talking about. So, you know, I titled this video, Drinking a Beer with Tom Speciale. I hope that's what it conveyed. You know, I'm sick of the direction that our country is going in, and we need somebody in Washington that is going to be a loud voice against it. And I think if you look at what I've done, what I've said, what I promise I will do, I think you'll see that I'm the candidate that's going to fight for our conservative values and our biblical values, and that's going to stand in the path of the establishment trying to retain their power at our expense. Because I won't tolerate collaborators. I will not tolerate them. You know, the socialists, those are easy to pinpoint. It's the collaborators and the appeasers that we have to be on the lookout for. So I hope that you got something out of this to maybe know better who I am, where I'm coming from. Please do me a favor and share this. Direct people to my website at www.thomasspeciale.com. You can also get to my YouTube channel, Thomas Speciale, and then you can also get my autobiography, Faith, Family, and Fortitude. It's available on Amazon. I give all the proceeds to charity. This is Memorial Day weekend. Today is Memorial Day. I want to put a shout out to all my battle brothers that are out there, especially the ones that are not home with their families. You know, and take a few minutes to drink a beer in the memory of our fallen. There are a lot of them over the years. And today is a day that we should be spending remembering them. And that's what I've been doing. And so, again, I hope you got something out of this. I'm Tom Speciale, and I look forward to seeing you out on the road. I'm going to be making a statewide tour next week. So be looking on Facebook for where I'm at, and please come and visit me. I'm going to be stopping along the road and in hotels and parking lots and Walmarts, hopefully to see if I can't hook up with people along the road in Virginia. So, again, thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you soon. And don't forget, the primary is June 23rd, and you got to vote. And you got to take all your friends and family to vote, too. And you got to tell them vote Thomas Speciale. Thank you.